before yesterday, after that, before that. I've been, during this visit, discussing the pastimes of Krishna from the time that Krishna left Mathura and then went to Dwarka. And a little review. Why did Krishna leave Mathura? Krishna left Mathura because it was his pastime. And the pastime was, there was enmity towards Krishna from Jarasandha. Jarasandha was a king, and he was in the bad guy category. And Asti and Prapti, those two daughters were given in marriage to Kamsa, otherwise known as Kamsa. Wicked Kamsa. So, Kamsa tried in many ways. He was prophesied at the time of Kamsa's sister's marriage, not exactly sister, but cousin sister, Devaki, when she married Vasudeva, as he was driving the husband, the now brother-in-law, and his sister to Vasudeva's home, there was a voice from the sky. The voice from the sky said, "Kamsa, you are such a fool! The 8th child of Devaki will kill you!" So he immediately raised his sword, grabbed his sister's hair with one hand, ready to chop her head off with his sword in the other hand on the day of her wedding. He's not a nice guy. And Vasudeva, whose name is given a second name from the time of his birth, Anakundundubi. It means when he was born, from the sky came sounds of celestial music, drums and so forth, proclaiming a person who is always truthful has been born. So he was also known as Anakundundubi. So Vasudeva persuaded Kamsa, don't kill your sister. It won't be nice on her wedding day. The voice said, the 8th child of Devaki will kill you. So I give you my word, and you know my word is good. Every single child that is born, I'll give to you, and you can do with that child whatever you like. Trusting the word of Vasudeva, he released his sister, and sure enough, they went to Vasudeva's home. And when the first child was born, keeping his word, Vasudeva called Kamsa, said, here's the first child. And he got a little soft and said, well, it was the 8th child of Devaki, so you can keep the child. But when Kamsa went back to his palace, the minister said, wait a minute. Your enemy is very tricky. So it said the 8th child, but maybe it's the first child, so you should kill the first child. So he went back, asked for the first child, and smashed right in front of them, picked the child up by his legs and smashed the child on a rock. Very, very mean. And imprisoned them, so it wouldn't get away. So, long story, the 8th child is born. But the 8th child that was born was Krishna. And Krishna said, Now Krishna appeared not in a child form, but in a four-armed Vasudeva form of Krishna, carrying the symbols of Vishnu in his arms, in his hands. Devaki and Vasudeva offered their prayers. Devaki requested, please assume a child form. Because when Kamsa comes to know, because he knew this is the 8th pregnancy, he'll come at once and try to kill you. So if you assume a childlike form, maybe we can hide you, which is very irrational. Because if he's the four-armed form of Vishnu, who's going to kill him? But that was her maternal mood, and Krishna assumed a childlike form, but said, before I do that, as soon as I assume a childlike form, please take me out of Mathura to the side of Vasudeva, to the side of Yasoda and Nanda, and leave me there. Yasoda will have already has a female child born, and just do a switcheroo. And don't worry, the guards that are guarding us in this prison, they'll fall asleep. And don't worry, there's shackles on the door, the shackles will fall off. Don't worry, there's a storm outside, it's midnight, but you'll be able to cross, no problem. And sure enough, that's what happened. So the 8th child of Devaki was taken to the other side of the river Jamuna, placed by the side of Mother Yashoda, who was asleep because having just given childbirth, she was asleep. And a female child was taken, and Krishna was left in the care of Yasoda and Nanda. When the female child was brought back, Kamsa heard the child was born. He came to try to kill the female child, although it was supposed to be a male child. And the girl slipped from his hands, flew into the air. Again, Kamsa, you are such a fool. The 8th child of Devaki has already been born and will kill you. So he tried one after the next, sending demons to kill Krishna. They all failed. Finally, Narada Muni came to visit Kamsa. Narada Muni was offered all respect by Kamsa, because Kamsa was one of those kind of people who followed codes of conduct for material purpose. The Sanskrit word is duskriti. Kriti means piety or merit. And he did piety or merit for duskriti purposes, to get more power. So he honored Narada, which is a kriti function, for his evil purposes. Narada knew that's what he would do. So Narada thanked him. Thank you for receiving me so nicely. I'd like to give you some very confidential information. You remember the 8th child of Devaki was supposed to kill you? You know that Vasudeva gave you the first 6 children that were born, and you killed them one by one? Well, Kamsa, here's a secret. The 8th child he didn't give you. The 8th child was taken to the other side of the river Jamuna, and that child is known as Krishna. Krishna is the one who's supposed to kill you, so Kamsa, protect your backside, as they say these days. That's the one that you have to be wary of. The Kamsa was really angry. Vasudeva lied. I'm going to kill him right away. He said, no. Don't worry about Kamsa. Don't worry about Vasudeva. It's the 8th child of Devaki. Fix your attention. Become really Krishna conscious. Fix your consciousness on Krishna and kill him. Because you can't kill Krishna. He knew that. He just wanted to hasten the pastime of Krishna killing Kamsa. So after Narada gave a tip to Kamsa, then the plan was to send a courier to bring Krishna to Mathura so Kamsa could firsthand kill him. He had to do plan A, B, and C. The elephant, the wrestlers, and then himself. Well, Krishna killed the elephant, Krishna killed the wrestlers, and then Krishna killed Kamsa. Now, that wasn't the end of the problem, because Kamsa had 2 queens, and the 2 queens were daughters of Jarasandha. So the 2 daughters of Jarasandha went back and, Daddy, you know what happened? Krishna killed our husband. Take revenge, take revenge, take revenge. I take a vow. This is now we're covering chapters that we just completed. I take a vow. I will kill not only Krishna, but the entire Yadu dynasty. So he gathered a massive army and charged to Mathura. Krishna defeated the entire army, leaving 1 soldier standing, namely Jarasandha. Said, you can go back home now. Humiliated 17 times. 18th time, by will of providence, from the north country, from the Yavana country now in Afghanistan, Kalyavana came from the north to Mathura. Jarasandha came from the east. This is important. Krishna saw both armies coming. He received word they were both coming. So he told Balaram, you hold off these armies, massive armies. Massive. 3 million soldiers from the north and some similar number from the east. That's a lot of soldiers. Hold them off. I'm going to situate the Yadu dynasty members in the safe place. So he had the architect of the demigods very quickly, in a jiffy, build a magnificent city called Dwaraka, situated everyone in their residential quarters very graciously, and returned back. And when he returned back, he ran from the battlefield. Kalyavana chased him. Muchukunda finished him. Long story. Krishna went back to the battlefield, finished all the soldiers of Kalyavana. Jarasandha again continued attacking from the east. Krishna ran from the battlefield with Balaram. Kshatriyas don't run from the battlefield, but they ran from the battlefield. And then they went, there's many things happened. They went swiftly, in a matter of moments, they went swiftly to Dwaraka. And there was a reason. It was time for Krishna to marry Rukmini. So we heard the last 3 chapters, Krishna's marriage to Rukmini. That's his first queen. And that's where we ended yesterday. And now we're hearing his second and third queen. And the second and third queen, in sequence, they're Jambavati, queen number 2, and Satyabhama, queen number 3. So that's what we're hearing. And there's a story in relation to Satyabhama and the Syamantaka Jewel. As you see, this is 56. We finished yesterday 55. So that's just a little review. And I think you'll appreciate that it makes it really easy. Your daughter especially will appreciate, because it's a nice story. It's a nice story. It's got video, and just hang on. Make sure you catch the story. You'll learn all about the Syamantaka Jewel, chapter 56. So a little background. During Prabhupada's time, I remember very clearly where the artists in Boston were painting the paintings for Krishna book, because the system was Srila Prabhupada had a dictaphone, and he would dictate his Bhaktivedanta purports into microcassettes. The microcassettes were sent in the mail, and the artists were the first ones to hear. They would sit around and hear, and then there was 3 of them at the time. They would conceptualize which paintings to make for Krishna book. So the book production went on. Krishna book was produced. It took a few years to get the finished Krishna book, but there's beautiful art. Some years passed, and in Northern Europe, even more specifically in Sweden, they wanted to have another version of Krishna book. So they had artists, same thing, made paintings, and along with the distribution of the Krishna book, the newer version, they made a little video. And those of you that were attending the wedding in Chicago, you'll recognize the narrator's voice. It's Kripamoya's voice. Kripamoya is a Prabhupada disciple. He has you'll hear, a very wonderful narrator's type voice. He's a narrator, and then there's some little moving pieces, kind of simple little video telling the story of chapter 56, the Syamantaka Jewel story. So let's see if we can get technology to cooperate. And I think I'm going to have to do this. Okay, it's working. Let's go back. It has a little introduction. This sound is good. I don't know how to make the screen bigger.
Long ago, in ancient India, a king named Satyajit lived near Lord Krishna's magnificent city of Dwarka. He was a great devotee of the celestial sun god, Surya, who liked him because Satyajit would daily spend hours chanting sacred mantras in his honor, and offering him fine gifts. The sun god's special benedictions are unlimited wealth and perfect health. Eager for such benedictions, Satyajit passed his days worshipping Suryadev.
You can see the smoke coming out of the incense holder, and in the distance, that's the city of Dwarka rising in the sky. And there's the sun, and the sun worshipper's king, Satyajit.
One day, feeling intense affection for his devotee Satyajit, Suryadev awarded him a magical jewel known as Syamantaka, never before seen in this world. The jewel had the amazing power to create 170 pounds of pure gold every day. What's more, it could ward off sickness and hunger for everyone who lived where it was worshipped. Satyajit was overjoyed to receive the gem. Bowing down out of deep gratitude, he said, "O most bright and beautiful Suryadev, knowing my heart, you have fulfilled my every desire."
So wealth and health. Wealth and health. And he was really happy because that's what he wanted. It wasn't a spiritual quest, it was another kind. But great devotee, given the gift. And then
full of conceit, Satyajit placed the dazzling gem on a chain, hung it around his neck, and strolled into Dwarka, arrogantly prancing by the grand palace of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The residents of Dwarka, blinded by the jewel's effulgence, mistook Satyajit for the sun god. Some of them ran to Krishna's palace to tell the Lord that Suryadev had come to pay him homage. At that time, Krishna was playing chess. They stood before him with folded palms and said, "O Lord Narayan, O lotus-eyed Govinda, please forgive us for this intrusion. We are here to announce that Suryadev has come to see you. He is so bright with intense love for you that his rays are blinding us."
now it's noted that they mistook Satyajit for the sun god because the jewel was as effulgent as the sun. So they thought it was the sun god that had come. And also notice he Satyajit, simply ignored Krishna because of his arrogance.
Lord Krishna smiled broadly to hear the innocent words of his devotees. "My dear friends," he said, "it is not the sun god, but King Satyajit who has come to Dwarka. His effulgence emanates from the jewel he's wearing. After Satyajit had passed by Krishna's palace, without even thinking of paying homage to the Lord, he rushed home to arrange for the Syamantaka jewel's installation on a special altar. Though he called many respectable holy men to preside over the ceremony, he was so completely engrossed in thoughts of possessing the jewel that he forgot to invite Krishna to the ceremony to receive his blessings.
Pride. He's over there on the left, sitting on a nice big throne. Over there on the right is the effulgent jewel on a very elaborate throne. And there's the fire yogya.
Being a worshipper of the demigods, Satyajit had become too materialistic. Thus, some time later, when Krishna asked him to give the jewel to Ugrasena, the Yadu king, Satyajit refused. Instead, he thought it wiser to worship the jewel himself, so he could get the 170 pounds of gold every day.
Notice in the painting or this illustration, he's turning his head away from Krishna. Very simple. Well, Krishna gave him a chance to become detached, but he wasn't ready for that.
One day, Satyajit's brother, Prasenna, to show off his family's opulence, hung the jewel around his neck and rode off into the forest on horseback to hunt. As he rode here and there along the forest path, a big lion watched him from a rock high above the road.
Guess what's next?
Look at this man, the lion said to himself. How pridefully he rides with this great shiny jewel resting on his swollen chest. But I am the king of this forest, the owner of everything, and the master of everyone. This jewel is meant for me, the lion roared, to be worn around my kingly mane. Saying this, he leapt down upon Prasenna and his horse, killed them both with his sharp teeth, and happily ran off with the Syamantaka jewel, leaving the two dead bodies.
What's next?
Carrying the jewel in his mouth, the lion ran into a cave to enjoy the unique beauty of his trophy. As the jewel's splendid effulgence lit up the cave, the lion roared with great delight. Unfortunately, the lion had entered the cave of Jambavan, the king of the bears, who was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. Hearing the lion's roar within the entrance of his cave, Jambavan ran to protect his family. Lion, Jambavan shouted, why have you entered my home? And where did you get such a fine gem? From the blood on your paws, it appears you've killed someone to enjoy earthly splendor. The lion stood up infuriated. How wrong you are, Jambavan. I'm the king of this jungle, the owner of everything. Retreat into your cave or die. Jambavan replied, You fool! Don't you know everything belongs to the Supreme Lord? Get out of here, or I'll send you to the abode of Yamaraj. At this, the lion sprang at Jambavan, his sharp claws bared, his fangs glistening. But as an elephant easily crushes an ant, Jambavan slapped the lion dead with his mighty fist. Jambavan carried the lion's dead body outside and left it on the mountainside. When he returned to his cave, he saw the Syamantaka jewel lying on the ground. Being a great devotee of the Lord, Jambavan did not see the valuable jewel as something he very much needed. So he gave it to his little son to play with.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile, back in Dwarka, Satyajit awaited the return of Prasenna. When he did not return, Satyajit became deeply troubled. Unaware that his brother had been killed by a lion, he began to think that Krishna must have killed Prasenna to take the jewel. This idea grew into a terrible rumor, which spread like wildfire amongst all the residents of Dwarka. You saw for yourself how Krishna asked me to give him the Syamantaka jewel. Because I refused, he must have stolen it from Prasenna and killed him in the forest.
Rumors.
Satyajit spread this false rumor from house to house until it finally reached the lotus-like ears of Lord Sri Krishna within the palace walls. Wanting to remove the stain on his reputation, Krishna took some of Dwarka's leading citizens with him and set out to retrace Prasenna's path. In the forest, they soon found the mauled bodies of Prasenna and his horse, and further on, the body of the lion on the mountainside. Everybody could plainly see that the lion had been killed by the hand of Jambalan. Dear Lord, the citizens exclaimed, just see how Prasenna and his horse were killed by the jaws of a lion. How horrible it is that Satyajit has accused you of such a terrible crime. We, your closest servants, never believed it. The Lord replied, I know your hearts, dear friends. Only fools would believe such a rumor. But I cannot allow my reputation to become sullied, and thus I must prove my innocence. Come along, Krishna continued. Since the jewel is no longer with Prasenna or the lion, Jambavan must have it. Along with his subjects, Krishna stood at the mouth of the pitch-black cave. Dear Krishna, one citizen said, this cave is very frightening. Its entrance is as dark as night, and it appears to have a very long tunnel within. Perhaps we should return home to get torches. Krishna stood before the mouth of the cave. No, that won't be necessary. I will enter the tunnel alone. I don't think you should come with me. I don't want to endanger any of you. But I'm not afraid, and I'm sure I will find the Syamantaka jewel in this cave. Oh Lord, the citizens replied, please don't enter the cave alone. If any harm comes to you, we'll never forgive ourselves. Don't worry, Krishna assured them. I'll be back as soon as I recover the jewel. Lord Krishna proceeded along the vast tunnel, deeper and deeper into the cave, until at last he entered Jambavan's home. There he saw a small child sitting on the ground, playing with the Syamantaka jewel. The child's nurse thought Krishna was a thief and cried out in fear.
I wish I could make the screen bigger, but I don't know how to do it.
Upon hearing her cries, Jambavan, strongest of the strong, ran toward. Jambavan was actually a great devotee of Lord Krishna. But because he was extremely angry, he could not recognize his master. Thinking the Lord to be an ordinary man, Jambavan challenged Krishna to a fight, and the Lord heartily accepted, wanting to enjoy a good tussle with his devotee. They fought furiously, like two opposing vultures. For 12 long days and nights, the residents of Dwarka waited outside the cave for Krishna to return. Then, fearing the worst, they returned to Dwarka with heavy hearts to inform King Ugrasena of all that had happened. Deep inside the cave, the battle between Krishna and Jambavan raged on. First, the two combatants struck each other with huge metal clubs. Then they began to hurl boulders at each other. Next, they took massive tree trunks and used those as clubs. And finally, they began striking each other with their fists, each blow sounding like the crack of thunder. The fighting went on day and night for 28 days. At last, Jambavan's muscles began to weaken from the powerful pummeling of Lord Krishna's fists, and his strength began to falter. Greatly astonished, Jambavan finally spoke. "My dear Lord, I can now understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the source of everyone's strength, wealth, fame, wisdom, and renunciation. You are the same Supreme Person whom I worship as Lord Ramachandra. No one else has such immeasurable strength to defeat me like this." Lord Krishna was satisfied by the submissive praise of Jambavan, and to mitigate his pain, the Lord began to gently rub his lotus palms all over Jambavan's body. At once, Jambavan felt complete relief from the pain and fatigue of the great battle. Then the Lord spoke to his devotee with sublime compassion, his grave voice deeply resounding like a cloud. "My dear King Jambavan, you, not the lion, are the true king of the jungle. of the bears. It is for the Syamantaka jewel that I have come to your cave. Since the disappearance of this jewel, fools have defamed me. Please, turn the jewel over to me now. Understanding the whole situation, Jambavan immediately placed the magnificent jewel around the Lord's neck with great devotion. He also offered his beautiful maiden daughter, Jambavati, to join Krishna as his wife. Accepting both the Syamantaka jewel and Jambavati, Krishna happily married her within the mountain cave. Earlier, when the citizens had returned from the forest without Krishna, the Lord's family had plunged into an ocean of sorrow. They had cursed Satyajit as the cause of Krishna's disappearance. They decided to pray to the demigoddess Durga for Krishna's safe return. And as soon as they had finished their prayers, the goddess promised to grant their request. Just then, Lord Krishna appeared before them with his new wife on his arm and the brilliant Syamantaka jewel around his neck. Overjoyed, the residents of Dwarka at once prepared to celebrate the return of their Lord. Lord Krishna summoned Satyajit to the royal assembly, and in the presence of King Ugrasena, announced the recovery of the jewel. Then he formally presented the jewel to Satyajit. Hanging his head in shame, Satyajit took the gem and returned home. As he pondered the grievous offense he had committed against Krishna, Satyajit worried about possible conflict with the Lord's mighty devotees. Then he thought, how can I cleanse myself of my sin? And how may Lord Krishna become satisfied with me? What can I do to regain my good fortune and avoid being cursed for my offensive and foolish, miserly behavior? I know. I shall give Lord Krishna my daughter Satyabhama, the jewel of all women, along with the Syamantaka jewel. Hoping to thus pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Satyajit arranged the marriage ceremony of Krishna and his beautiful daughter Satyabhama. The Lord married her in proper religious fashion. Pleased with Satyajit, Lord Krishna said, "It is better to let the Syamantaka jewel remain in the temple as you have kept it. In this way, since the jewel's presence in the city guarantees the absence of famine and other disturbances, every one of us will benefit." Lord Krishna knew that in his heart, Satyajit had no real desire to give the jewel away. And so, having already acquired Satyajit's greatest treasure, the pure, gem-like Satyabhama, Krishna was happy to let Satyajit keep the Syamantaka jewel.
And that's the end of the story. End of chapter 56.
It is said that anyone who hears the narration of the Supreme Lord's pastimes, such as the story of the Syamantaka jewel, or describes these pastimes, or even simply remembers them, is freed from all reactions to impious activities and attains the highest state of perfect peace.
Very well done, huh? So now, there's a separate, when I made this presentation for the devotees in China, this wouldn't have worked because they have the subtext and so forth in Chinese. It wouldn't have worked. So I made a PowerPoint presentation that covers the chapter, pretty much following the same flow of events. The subtitle, When Falsely Accused, or Responding to Unjust Criticism, from Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, sometimes there's duality in this world, so sometimes there's honor and sometimes dishonor. And it happens. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not, it's unjust. So how do you respond to unjust criticism? And there's a number of lessons. The way that I conducted this with the Chinese devotees and with other audiences here in America. Let's take a little bit of time and see if you want to volunteer. What are some practical application kind of lessons in this whole story? Now, it's said, we heard at the very end, there's purification that comes in any case just by hearing the name and fame and qualities and pastimes and loving exchanges between the Lord and his devotees. The next chapter is what happens after Satyajit gets the Syamantaka jewel. There's a whole other set of things that happen. Rough. So, reflection time. Any thoughts on lessons, application lessons for our practical lives? Yes.
This
You're on.
last time kind of reminded me of like when sometimes we blame God for our misfortune, even though it's not necessarily his fault and stuff like that.
Not necessarily.
I mean, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. That's what I'm trying.
And so what's the lesson?
The lesson is to take responsibilities for our actions. And knowing that whatever we do, will have some consequences. Like in this case, he forgot the position of Krishna, and he accused him for something he didn't do. he put him on the same level as he in one sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Lesson number 1. Any others? Thoughts?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. There were so many lessons. The top one is for me is that Krishna even working to retrain the infamy, or he's doing it for us. So like fool like us,
Yes.
don't think that he did something wrong or we defame him. So that reputation having back was a big lesson for me. Everything is for us. And another one was that turning head of Satya.
Just say the first one again, a little, say it, same thing, but in a different way. So that it's very clear for all of us.
Okay. So to Krishna to have his proving his innocence and his reputation back.
Yeah.
I felt it was a mercy for us. He didn't do it for himself. He did it for fool like me. That I don't have any negativity towards Krishna or any doubt in. So there's he cleared a path for me. So even though I'm struggling or I may not have an interest towards him right now, but at least this thing not become an obstacle towards him.
Okay, before you go on to the next one, let me stay on that one for a moment. What was the method that Krishna used to take that stigma away? Or when someone may falsely accuse you, what can we learn from what Krishna did when someone falsely accuses you? Anyone? Yes.
The first thing I observed in Krishna's behavior was he didn't react at all. He just he took his few confidential associates and he went to find the solution first before reacting to anything.
Yeah. In simple, the way that I like to express this is he stood by the truth. Because the truth will prevail. Rumor, misinformation, misunderstanding, it may, not feel good or it hurts or something like that, but just stand by the truth. And to verify the truth, he took some of the elders to verify what the truth was. So it wasn't just his word against somebody else, but it was, verifiable. The truth will become known, and the truth will clarify misunderstandings. You wanted to say something on this particular point?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, typically when we get accused or someone says something about us, we immediately tend to get angry at the other person. Krishna never got immediately angry at him. He wanted to, like you said, stand by the truth and
Yeah. The reacting is, oh yeah, but he didn't do that at all. He knew what to do. Sometimes it's a good lesson because anger can cloud your understanding of what to do. You get into something else instead of the truth. You get into a tit for tat. Next. On this line?
Yeah, I think Krishna just seems like he goes on his path of, total virtuousness.
Yes.
And he does not seem to get affected. I mean, he teaches us not to get affected by what's going on around us, but keep doing what you're supposed to do in life, like your path of things should not change.
Very good. Very good. Abide by the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you're going to have a lot of noise around you, but that should not affect your
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. In truth, that as you use the word virtue is truth, and truth is virtue.
Yeah.
So just stay by virtue, and in time, the truth will become known. And you do what you if there's something appropriate, you help the truth to be known. But in any case, you continue on with a life of virtue.
Yeah. And the 12 days was interesting, Maha, because the truth may not come out right away,
Yeah.
but it's probably that time frame is given for us to learn that eventually it will come out.
Yes. Very good. Very good. You got the message. Next.
Another one I was thinking, Guru Maharaj, while trying to cultivate bhakti, checking in me is which part of me is acting as a Satyajit.
Which part of you is acting?
As a Satyajit, because in the starting he turned away from Krishna and his more interest was towards wealth and health, not pursuing the spirituality.
Yeah.
So just checking on me, and even in the end when he returned the jewel, the intention was not to pleasing Krishna or having connection with or having relationship. It was moreover not having a consequences. So checking on myself.
So attachment to something material like wealth, attachment to something material like wealth can make one blind to what is virtue, what is the right thing to do. This is your point. So when that gets disturbed, the disturbing factor, we can look inside. If we kind of like losing our bearings, and a good friend may gently tap us on the shoulder and say, "Are you sure you're heading in the right direction here?" And one of the places we can check, even without a tap on the shoulder, is, are we attached to something that's temporary and trying to be the enjoyer of something that's temporary? Because if so, the right thing to do or the virtuous thing to do or the path that should be followed will be obscured and we'll do something else. That's exactly what happened when he went, because he was proud. When he went into Dwarka, the first thing he should have done is paid respect to Krishna. He wasn't a Dwarka resident. He was somewhere outside Dwarka, and he came to visit Dwarka because, I'm going to show off my opulence. So he just ignored Krishna, which was an offense. That's how, the pride led to an offense, led to, more things. So the seed of many things is pride. And just to reiterate, this is a big topic that's going to come up over the Memorial Day weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend.
I think what you said was interesting because Tevi and I, we seem to, maybe we are now more conscious of it, but she's doing a lot of chanting too. But whenever we've seen that if he had asked Krishna for guidance, probably his problems would have been solved right there.
Yeah.
But we now call them, like Tevi and if we have some problem that, how do we solve this? We first, we'll say, okay, let's chant and ask Krishna. And we call them the Hare Krishna moments, because suddenly we seem like out of the blue, an answer comes up. And it's amazing, to give us example, we are going to California in May, and we didn't know how to. There's a distance of 60 miles from the airport to the hotel, and there is no transportation available. So we were struggling with it. And we said, okay, let's chant and ask Krishna for guidance. How do we get to do that? So unbelievably, one of my friends who I've known for many years, but I've not talked to her in a long time, she calls me and she says, I heard you're coming to the same town I am in. And before I could tell her that I'm concerned about trans, she said two things. You and Tevi are going to stay with me, and I'll be sending a cab out to you to get you back to my home from the airport. I'm like, I told her, I said, Hare Krishna.
Fell out of the sky.
Yeah. So what we have seen more and more, maybe we are more conscious of it now, because we both of us are, chanting, and because we are going about our everyday life, but we are seriously asking Krishna for guidance in every step.
Very good. Very good. So now go back to the story. If Satyajit would have...
Yes.
So say it again.
If he would have, instead of going through all this shebang of all this, what he did, if he had right away asked for guidance from Krishna, whatever it is about
Yes.
he would have not faced all that he had to go through. Or I think Krishna would have given him, Krishna gives you answers, what I have found, when you seriously and with all your heart ask him for answers.
Now, what's the obstacle? This is important. He didn't because...
of his ego.
Yeah. I'm look at my opulence.
Yes. I'm shining. Look at, everybody is looking at me. So it's ego of
170 pounds of gold every day. Look at me.
And I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to be the, all
Right
this.
on top of everything.
Exactly. So if he had said, no, this is all, let me first ask Krishna, what is, I think all that could have been avoided.
170 pounds of gold wasn't the problem. It's the attachment.
Yes.
And how you use that which comes to you instead of through attachment. How do you use it?
And Krishna would have given him such simple answers, and he didn't have to struggle through. So what I am seeing with every story is, if we keep asking Krishna at every step.
Very good. Very good. Very good. I like it. Something else. Any other? I can think of a few others. Lessons from what we heard. I see someone with their hand up in the back.
So see, Maharaj, Satyajit ultimately surrendered to Krishna or come to the senses, but he lost his reputation, he lost his brother also. So lesson is not to go through this turmoil cycle, straight away surrender or accept our position and the relationship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sooner or later, this lifetime, next lifetime is going to happen sometime, but there'll be a lot of loss and bloodshed in between.
This is an extension what her comment exactly.
Yeah, direct or indirect.
Okay. Any other lessons?
So Krishna had asked Satyajit to give the jewel to Ugrasena, but Satyajit said no. So saying no to the instructions of Krishna or representatives of Krishna has its consequences.
Yes. And in this case, he didn't ask. So Krishna asked him. And he said no. Consequences. Dire consequences. Because Krishna didn't want the jewel. Krishna wanted to relieve Satyajit of his pride, which was invested in the jewel. Later he gave him the jewel back. But the pride was still there. And we'll hear the next chapter, the consequences for those sequence of events. There's more to come. That's consequences department. Very good. Yeah.
I was thinking from the example of Jamavant. So when he first time when he saw Krishna, he was very angry, so he could not recognize him.
Very important.
But because he have a devotion, sooner he's come to the senses and he surrendered immediately, understanding, okay, what's going on. So his devotion protected him rather than going too much in wrong direction, but course correction happened very soon.
Well, 28 days and nights, that's quite a long time.
Yeah.
And, Jambavan is very powerful. Jambavan, very powerful. And he, Krishna, is his Lord and Master. Now, he didn't recognize his Lord and Master. Why? Attachment. Attachment. I mean, a natural attachment for a father is attachment to his little son. But due to undue attachment, he couldn't even recognize the Lord of his life. Through his devotion, and his sore body, he came to realize this isn't just another person. Through his devotion, he came to realize somebody else could get whooped and beaten badly and not realize anything, but his devotion. Very important lesson. Yeah.
I got one online.
Online. Oh, right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is from Lal Prabhu. Lesson I learned. Those who are in leadership possible should stay on the side of truth by removing any infamy. So the dependent do not lose the trust on the leadership. But this has to be done in a humble state of mind like Krishna, not aggressively.
Not, what's that word?
Not aggressively.
Aggressively.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Krishna's, yeah, exactly. Krishna did it very graciously. And it was compelling. When he came back, everyone understood what the real story was. The one who was sorry or embarrassed was the rumor maker. And it was deliberate. And, rumors impact how people perceive things. Although it shouldn't be like that. Now, those close to Krishna, they said, we never believed it. But even if you don't believe it, there's kind of like a cloud. And the cloud is removed. Anything else? You have something else? Okay.
Guru Maharaj, I'm thinking about a rumor, like how just by hearing one rumor, it affected consciousness within 1 second. Like it's like a slippery slope. Degrading consciousness take 1 second and just go down, and upgrading,
Takes a while.
working, it's like a high going, walking on a mount, like how that rumor affects, like that kind of spicy thing affect an interest catching and spiritual topic. It's take a lot of efforts to interest, like.
Well, Bhagavad Gita has an answer to this question. And the answer to this question is one becomes indifferent to all that is heard and will be heard. From when it comes to village talk. No, that comes as a result of higher consciousness. When there's higher consciousness, the source of what one hears becomes very important, not the content of what one hears. And even if we hear something from, apparently, a valid source, we still, want to, pause and hear further. And are there differing views? Because, it happens from something from our acharyas, let's say. They're pristine sources. And we hear one acharya say this. Over there, another acharya says, not this, but that. And now how do you process it? well, you don't like get disturbed. And if it's this, then it can't be that. And if it's that, it can't be this. You pause out and see if there's some clear path that this and that are simultaneously possible. There's a nice example of this from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In the details, it's not in the front of my mind right now, but it goes something like this, where Sanjaya is narrating what is going on in the battlefield. There's one of his words that says that the armies were unlimited. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is the superior to Baladev. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reads it this way, Baladev reads it that way. In their same commentaries, in their personal commentaries. So, and it's just the reading of the Sanskrit word. It can mean this, or it can mean that. One takes it this way, one takes it that way. Now, how is a little fellow like one of us supposed to take this one says this and that one says that, and how do we reconcile? There's recommendation how to reconcile when you hear two authorities saying what appears to be contradictory things. One of those possibilities is they're both right in terms of rendering a Sanskrit term or a Sanskrit phrase and what it means. It's they have, one has this realization, another has that realization, and our little binary processor, the mind, says it's either a 1 or a 0. If it's a 1, it can't be a 0. If it's a 0, it can't be a 1. So which is it? And we're puzzled. And another is they can both be right. It's just their perception or their realization. And the realization is not speculation. It's something that's coming into their heart from the words of the Bhagavad Gita. And they have their realization that expresses it this way and expresses it that way. It happens. But normally, going back to the point that you were making, when we hear something that's hearsay or rumor, how do you process it? And from time to time in our lives, there are such things that come to our attention. There's one that's going on these days. I'm not going to go into it because there's no need to puzzle your brain. But there's a group of people that say this, and there's a group of people that say that. Just on the ontology of the soul. The one group says Bhakti is not inherent in the soul. And to say that Bhakti is inherent in the soul is a preaching strategy. But actually, Bhakti is not inherent in the soul. Bhakti is bestowed by one who has Bhakti. Period. Another group says Bhakti is inherent in the soul, but it's not like a Cartesian coordinate in the locus of the soul, but it's intrinsic to the nature of the soul, which that intrinsic nature is awakened by association with devotees. It's forgotten, but it's of the soul, and it's awakened by association with one who is carrying bhakti. And it's awakened because it's inherent in the soul. And not simply bestowed, but it's awakened. Another group says, no, no, no. And it goes back and forth. And it's actually not a contradiction. If I'm satisfied hearing a very clear explanation. It's the original consciousness of the soul has become so much covered and forgotten that it's as if it's not there, but it's just forgotten. Like one of the expressions, I didn't know this was a controversy until the last 6 months, 8 months, something like that. But there's some people that are in two different groups that say this and that. So when Prabhupada spoke at Tompkins Square Park, very celebrated phrase I like a lot, I've not come to teach you something new. I've simply come to remind you of that which you have forgotten. Our Krishna consciousness is innate. It's in the writings of Krishna Das Kaviraj and Chaitanya Charitamrita, quoting the words, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. It's within the heart of the living entity. It's already there. Just needs to be awakened. But it's not awakened unless and until there's association of one who has bhakti, then it's awakened, but it's already there. So there are these phrases. It's the nature of the soul, or it's nurtured by one who has it. And so one may emphasize this or one may emphasize that, but they're not in contradiction to each other. The original consciousness of the soul is inherent in the soul, or of the soul. It's our inherent nature. And it's awakened by bhakti. Bhakti awakens bhakti. Something like fire is stored in wood. And you bring, I'm not going to do it, but if you took some fire by this little table here, the fire that's stored in the wood would come out. But leave it there for as long as you like, and it's just that fire is stored in the wood. So inherent in the jiva is bhakti, and it's awakened by contact with bhakti. Anyway, the topic is the rumor topic, or misinformation, or being wrongly accused, and what do you do when that happens? That's the main topic. Huh?
So both schools of thought are not wrong, because one school is saying the inherent bhakti is there, and the other one is saying, so basically it is there, but we still have to associate with people with bhakti.
No, the second group is saying it's a stork story. The stork story. Like, where do children come from? Because a little child may not understand a human reproductive system. The mother may tell the child, here's how you came. A stork came in a basket, dropped the basket at our door, and we opened up the basket, and there you were. It's myth. It's mythology. So that other group doesn't say it's inherent, it just needs to be awakened. They say it's just a stork story.
Okay.
And that's when, for me, this is me. When our acharyas write this, and they're persons who are reading the writings of our acharyas and they're saying they're teaching something that's a stork story, because their audience can't understand the reality, so they're telling a stork story.
Yeah. Okay.
That hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
We have 2 online.
2 online. You can take your mask down so I can hear you better. Thank you.
The first question is from Rajajana Prabhu. It says, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, while we learn so many lessons out of this wonderful story, I understand to retrospect without reacting to the situations offered in our life.
Yes.
But Krishna has the capacity to remove whatever defame he has got while we are tiny souls. We may not have the capacity to prove our innocence many times.
That's okay.
What do we have to do in that
Stand
case?
by the truth. Our business is not to remove rumors. Our business is to abide by the truth, to remain engaged in sincere, genuine devotion to Krishna. And between us and Krishna, Krishna knows. And between us and another person, they may not know. But between us and Krishna, Krishna knows. So we abide by that. And commonly, not always, but commonly, the truth will become known because the nature of this person is what the nature of this person is. So we just, live by our nature. This was your point. You just continue. Excuse me. I'm making your point now. Yes. You just stay on the path of virtue. And if there's misunderstanding out there, sometimes there's honor and sometimes there's dishonor, and that's just the way it is in this world of duality, and you just continue on the path of virtue. That's what Krishna did, and that's what we should do. And it may not, on your radar screen, it may not show up. Oh, there's the blip that shows the misunderstanding has been cleared. But you just abide by truth. And it becomes clear by default. This is the person's nature. Go ahead.
The next one is I think it's a comment by Sri Radhika Mataji. This is an application point I've heard from you often after you've narrated this story. Even you may be Krishna, don't expect immunity from being misunderstood. Operating with this realistic expectation helps us be better prepared in our life of service.
I remember saying that more than one time. But thank you for bringing it up. We have something in the back here. In the back here.
Maharaj, when Satyajit finally realized his mistake and he offered Satyabhama as well as the jewel to Krishna, Krishna understood his true intentions,
Yes.
that he's still not detached to the thing. Does that mean he offered Satyabhama with purest of intentions, or is it also Krishna's wish?
Interesting question. Now, it's a matter of grace, and we're going to hear tomorrow the complication that came as a result of his giving Satyabhama to Krishna, because he had already promised Satyabhama to two other men, and they were miffed. They were Krishna's devotees. They were happy but they were miffed in their relationship with Satyajit. We'll hear tomorrow. So your question specifically was it done in a manner of he didn't really want to give his daughter to Krishna, but he gave his daughter to Krishna because it was pragmatic. It was like take care of the ill reputation that he had. But it was really, he didn't mind giving his daughter to Krishna because Krishna is a suitable husband for his daughter. But he was reluctantly it was clearing his name by giving the jewel to Krishna, who would give it to Ugrasena. But he didn't give it to Ugrasena. He could have given it to Ugrasena. He gave it back to Satyajit because he knew he was attached. Let him give it, possessions, best if they're given voluntarily. There's a nice Prabhupada story that I'm thinking of. Maybe many of you probably know the story. There was in London, there was a wealthy man who invited Prabhupada to visit his home. And in his home, there was a large, very large marble murti of Radha Krishna. And Prabhupada's eyes were noticing this beautiful murti of Radha Krishna. And he complimented the man, beautiful murti. And he said to the man, you know, this is very beautiful deity. And the man said, if you like, you can have the deity. Prabhupada looked at the strong followers, nodded his head, told them, take the deity. They picked the deity up right from his, wherever he had the living room or wherever it was, like, you know, wasn't being worshipped. It was just like a statue. And they took it to the car and they left. And that became the deity of Radha Landanishwara. So the man wasn't like, it was like, wait a minute. You know, Prabhupada was transcendentally engaging this man in service to Radha and Krishna. Because they weren't being worshipped. They were like, you know, furniture or an artifact or something like that. But let them be worshipped. So to this day, they're worshipped at the Soho Street Temple. If you ever go to London, you can visit, then read the story. It's a nice story. But generally speaking, when someone gives something willingly, that's good for them. It's best. Anything else? Someone who's not had a chance? More online? Okay.
This question is by Bhavya. Hare Krishna Maharaj. The lesson I learned is Krishna reciprocates based on the level of surrender a person has.
Yes.
Jambavan got the darshan of Krishna
Yes.
as his beloved father master.
Yes.
And Satyajit even being in front of Krishna. And even Repentful just got the jewel.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's all there is.
Okay. Good. You have something.
I was reflecting on the pride. Sicharit had pride, and his brother has pride,
Yes.
and the lion has pride. All were killed, but no, devotee also had little pride, Jambavan, but that was very taken care.
It wasn't so much pride. He was just being protective of his child. It wasn't so much proud. He was being protective. He was attached. And he saw danger, and, you know, the father feeling danger for his child. That was his absorption, although he's a devotee. Okay. Wasn't exactly pride.
But they all had the pride, but that pride killed them, like lion and
Yes.
Chitran's
Yes.
brother.
Yes.
But Krishna has his own way of conveying that you are not the king. When it comes to lion, told that I am the king, and you cannot go with that jewel. And lion killed the Sitajit brother, and I mean that pride killed them. But I mean, I lost my question. I lost my track. But
I shouldn't have interrupted you. I'm sorry.
so yeah. The kingly, like I am the king of this, and at the end, when Krishna came to Jambavan, Krishna told that, okay, you are not king, and jump to Jambavan as well, and that the lion is not the king, and Jambavan is not the king. Krishna mentions that point.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Yeah, that actually reflecting on that.
Okay. Jambavan could take it and the others couldn't. Yeah. When we get corrected by a senior person, it's good. If you don't get corrected, by a senior person, we're unfortunate because we always need to be corrected. But when we get corrected by a senior person, we may take it well, we may not take it well. It's good to take it well because it's something that's beneficial. It's intended as beneficial, and it is beneficial. That's a good test about where our false ego lies. When we get corrected by a superior person, that's good fortune. You have another one? Okay.
This is from Sri Radhika Mataji. I found your example of controversy interesting. Is bhakti inherent in the soul? I was not aware of the existence of this controversy. To me, it sounds like a difference of opinion. What constitutes the difference between a controversy and a difference of opinion within ISKCON, since we know it's acceptable to agree to disagree?
Your husband has a link, which I sent to him, on an exposition on this topic. And so that's not an answer to your response to your question. It's just for your information. Difference of opinion, I mentioned one example. Baladev says this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that, and that's a difference of opinion or realization on a meaning of a Sanskrit word in Bhagavad Gita. Controversy, on the other hand, is where one says, this acharya is wrong. Or in this case, the controversy is not even saying that this acharya is wrong. You know, he's just he knows what's what, but he's using a preaching strategy to say something other than what's what, because he believes that his audience can't hear what's what, so he tells a stork story. And that's not, that's, you can say, it's not just a difference of opinion. It's, in the name of being respectful to a previous acharya and a worthy superior, because Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta, and Srila Prabhupada all said the same thing. It's saying that they didn't say the right thing. I mean, that's pride. And that's, the controversy is where one's placing oneself above an acharya and making some, evaluation, as the acharya giving us the real story or not. Then it gets, I guess you can call that a controversy. You can call it some other things too. And if you're interested in this, you listen to what your husband has, that recording. And if you want, I can give you the other side of the story. So if you want to hear both sides of the story, but he articulates it within that recording that your husband has, what the other side says. The Purva Paksha presentation is there. You have something? Way in the back. I think we'll end with this.
But I'm thinking more about the Jamvan situation.
The which one?
Jamvan situation.
Jamal?
Jambavan situation. So he's a pure devotee and he's a family man. So when he senses a danger for his son, it seems like there's nothing wrong in that. Like his service to protect his son.
That's, yeah.
But is any subtle aspect that he get covered and not recognize Krishna while protecting his son also? So,
well, he didn't have to protect his son from Krishna.
Correct, but he was not seeing him as a Krishna. So what happened?
So his attachment to his son, or attachment to the bodily conception, clouded his understanding of who his master really is. He didn't have to protect his son from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But so his intelligence became clouded due to his undue attachment.
So
No, there's appropriate attachment, giving protection. It's not. There's nothing wrong. It's totally natural
yeah.
and totally Krishna conscious. Totally natural and totally. So it's human and transcendental.
So I'm trying to understand like how this undue attachment, like is it a subtle aspect?
That's subtle,
Yeah.
but that clouded, and then the cloud got removed.
Or was it, the anger has to play some role in it? Like he became angry and could not recognize, or?
Yeah, but you say angry and I say overly attached.
Sure, Maharaj.
Overly attached. So what, where's the line between that's appropriate attachment and that's over the line on, too much? Is when you forget Krishna. That's the line.
Sure, Maharaj.
Okay, I think we're